piece,
Okay.
number of pieces, because it's that important to us to continue this upward trend with our magazine. And now, without further ado, I'd like to present David Laws.
Thank you, Ginny. I'll see if I can figure out how to share the screen here. And let's see, we want to go to
The bottom green share, there you go.
There we go. And now I've got a slideshow of about 6 or 7 slides here. And after that, I'll be doing most of the talk online. So let's see if we can get the slideshow started here. And so can everybody see a screen with lots of words on?
Yes.
David, MJ Premick here. Will you be sending these out, your slides out?
I could, yeah. Although the program is being recorded as well and will be available on YouTube. So the slides are not the most important part, but I can certainly send that. Yeah. Okay. So what I'd like to talk to you about today is how to promote your stories and writing skills online with BATW. There's kind of about 5 parts to this. Why we think it's good for both the organization and the members. Why do we use the medium.com platform? Very briefly, how to sign up for a free account. You can actually sign up faster than I can even explain it, I think. I'd like to take you on a review of the BATW magazine, show it is what we've created. Then I'll take you through a typical story format. What are the components of the story? And then I will give you an online example of actually how to post an article. And then finally, how to submit your story for publication, and we'll handle questions and answers at that point. I'd like to hold those till the end if possible. And if you have questions, put them in the chat or we'll raise them at the end. So we've already introduced the gang. We started the idea about the beginning of the year, actually after the anthology came out. I realized that there was a tremendous amount of good writing on BATW, and I'd never seen any of it, except for an occasional link from one person or another. And so we came up with the idea of why can't we post these stories for everybody to see, and it'll perform service error. So April Orcutt, myself, Erin, Lee, and Karen got together. And we work together as a team. Each month, 2 of the members of the editorial board are responsible for editing. The others are in the background if there are issues that we can't agree on whether a story is appropriate or not. We've only ever had, out of, I think, 50+ submissions, one that we rejected, and it wasn't because it was a bad story. It just wasn't a good fit. This month being the next month's edition, which will be the December issue of the magazine, Erin and Lee are editors for that month. So I'll tell you more about how that works in a minute. So why is it a good deal to have such a magazine? I explained it briefly before. Essentially, you can have your own website, but I think there's something about a third-party curated website where your work is published that gives it credibility for trying to establish a presence in the marketplace. It's becoming a platform for promoting your published or upcoming books. Laurie, for example, does a very good job each month. She is publishing an article from one of her books, and it gives a link to show you where you can buy it. As Ginny just mentioned, this year it will count, one posting will count as one of the 3 qualifications that members need to maintain their credential. An interesting feature is you can actually create an article draft that you can see on your computer, but you don't publish it until you're ready. So while it's in draft form, you can create a link called a review link that you can actually send to editors. So editors could look through and decide from that information. It's non-public, if that's something they'd be interested in using. And you may never actually have to wish to publish it at all. It can just eventually be picked up as a printed piece. I think having this amount of good material on the web helps establish BATW's credentials as a professional organization. As I said before, I didn't know anything about the writing from other people other than every other year or so there'd be an anthology or something else published. Why did we choose the medium.com platform? It's now a very popular platform, originally for bloggers, but is becoming used more and more by long story writers and even photographers to display their work. As I think it has about close to a couple of 170,000, I think is the last number that I saw, including such writers as Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama have their own pages on medium.com. It's easy to use, at least one of the easiest to use platforms I've ever tried to use. It has its own quirks and you have to learn them, but it also has a pretty good help site if you need to find out something that isn't obvious. It has a standardized format, so it always uses the same typefaces, the same type font sizes for headings, for subheads, it has a number of places where pictures can be posted in a number of different formats, but it maintains a consistent look and feel across every article that you read, which again, I think helps professionalism. Has a large built-in audience. As I said, there are 170,000 plus people who have medium.com accounts. And one of the beauties is that there is no advertising, none at all. It is free both to have an account, it's free to post as many articles as you want. You can read up to 3 other articles a month without a subscription. But with a subscription of just $5 a month, you can read every article you wish. And there are other benefits. There's, I think, 50 to 60 editors employed by Medium who take a look through your work. And if they feel it's appropriate, they make it available for further distribution. And it turns up in various formats on the site where you haven't posted it to give other people a chance to see your work. And so that's, Medium's worked out pretty well for us. So how to sign up for a free account? Basically, you go type in medium.com in your browser, and you'll get a page something like this. Up here, there's a place, so you click on Get Started. This page comes up, and you can start writing by joining Medium either through Google, through Facebook, or by signing up with your own email address. So what you do is you click on that email address. It would then take you through 3 or 4 steps to create a page of your own. I'm not going to do it now because I'd have to sign out of Medium in order to appear like I was a new sign in. But believe me, it really is straightforward. And this is the kind of page that you would see, and on it will be stories that are selected for you based on your reading preferences from the past. It'll have avatars, pictures of folks that you follow or read their material fairly frequently. There are some faces here you'll recognize, Lee and Laurie and John there. And to start writing, what you do here is you just click up there on write. And you get a page like this, a blank page, where you'll enter your title here. You write out your whole story. I'll take you through the sequence of that. And then you would hit publish, and your page would be available for everybody to view. Or, as I said, there's a way you can keep this on your own computer and make a link that only those that you send it to can see. So this is what the magazine page looks like. On the left is how it looks like on a PC or a large screen platform. On the right is how it looks like on my iPhone. I imagine all the other phones will look pretty similar. And so basically, we have the BATW heading, then we have a collection, of recent stories on the home page. So I'm now going to try to go out to that page. So we're going to be live if everything works here. Okay, so I'm going to share screen again and okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah. Yes,
No, let's try again.
yes, I can see it. I can see it.
Okay, let's see if I can get this opened up then. So is that relatively full screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is, let's go right to the BATW. This is the home page for the magazine. There are a number of features on here that I'd like to point out. First of all, this is the featured stories for the month of November. So this was published about the first of the month. And on here are 24 stories that have been written and published by your fellow members of BATW. And at the top is something basically an index to this month's magazine. So this is what that index looks like. And so here are each of the month's article titles. And the benefit of using this is for those who want to read articles but are not BATW members or are BATW members and don't have a subscription to, they can click on one of these, and these are called friend links. This is a link that you can send to any of your friends that they can then click on to look on without having a subscription to the magazine. So that's the, and then below the heading every month here, there are the stories from each month. So I think there were 4 or 5 stories submitted last month. And so those 4 or 5 will be the first ones to show. The others will be stories from previous months until we get to the bottom when the page is full. After that, your stories remain on the site, but just not on the home page. And you can access those by going to any of these regional categories up here. We assign a category to your story. And for example, let's go to Asia and Oceania. And so here are the stories that have been published by BATW members from those areas of the world. And something else that's useful to know about on this page is submission guidelines. Everything you need to know after I'm no longer here, or you can't see the video recording, it basically tells you how to go about entering a story into BATW. There's the basics. How do I join and post an article? This was the link that takes you to sign up for, tells you about friend links. And then there's a help on Medium. There's an example here. If you want to know what photo sizes to use, you can go here, or we have an indemnification agreement. And then essentially how to submit your story to BATW Travel Stories. Basically, you would take a copy of the link to your page, you'd put it in an email message and send it to magazine@batw.org. Very straightforward. We would receive that, we can review it and let you know if we recommend any changes or fixes before it's published. Once you are accepted as a writer, you don't need to send that email anymore because it will automatically, when I show you another feature shortly, come into us when you click on that for the story. So that's basically what the home page looks like and what the content. So there's a couple of other things I can show at the bottom. There's an archive of all the stories ever published if you don't want to go to that index. And there's about BATW Travel Stories, which tells you a little bit more about what BATW is, what we do, and there are links and avatars for each of the editorial board, and then every writer who has been accepted as a credential writer is listed on the page here. So having told you that. Let's take a look at actually one of the most successful stories we've had in a long time, Lee's story here on Dinner at Sea and More with Holland America Line. So this basically shows you the format of the story. There's a header up here. There's a little bit about the author. Like to feature some kind of attractive picture at the beginning of the article, byline, and then going into the text. And this is example of Lee's story here. She has links to her own sites here at the bottom, and links to related articles. And of course, this can be an if you go kind of block as well, where you can put that kind of information. And one thing to note down here is you get 5 tags that you can assign to your article. We request that you only use 4 because we use one of those in order to direct it to each of the approachable regional tabs on the magazine. So let's take a look and see how many articles there are on BATW articles with the cruise ship tag. There's only one, and it's Lee's article. But if you'd like to see what other people are writing about cruise ships, you click on the More on Medium here. And there are 443 stories on cruise ships written by 294 writers. Oops, what happened there? Go back to that again. As I said, there are 443 stories, but one more story came up while we were looking, and I'm not sure what's going on there. It could be because the count was going up on the number of stories. Anyway, you get the idea there. There's another tag that Lee has here, Nassau. Lee's is the only story on Nassau, but there are 12 stories by 6 writers on Medium about the subject of Nassau. So that's an interesting feature if you want to see what somebody's writing and what kind of topic and what kind of competition you might be having if you're trying to place an article somewhere. So back with Lisa, and I'll show you one other feature here, which is very useful in terms of knowing how well your story is doing. Now, we only have access to this information on your stories for stories that you submit to us. We can't see anything else you might have published on BADW, and that is stats or statistics. So here are the statistics for BATW travel stories for the last 30 days. People have spent 7,000 minutes reading them. There are nearly 4,500 people have taken a look, and you can see how that trend is going. And we can specifically go in and look and see at specific stories. And here is Lee's story. There's 3,500 people looked at it. And this is always a nice number to look at. 1,300 people have read it. In other words, 41% of people that clicked on Lee's article read it right to the end, rather than just glanced at it and moved on. This is specifically what Lee can go and look at on her story. What's its impact? How many views each day? And how much time have members, and this is only count members being people who have paid money to join, have spent reading it. And even more interesting down here is you can see what is the source of that traffic. For example, only 4% of the readers who went to the story on Lee's particular article came from other Medium readers. The rest came from outside somewhere. And Lee has got some kind of magic touch here. Somehow she's managed to get a story featured on both Google and on an Android device feature. And most of her readers are coming from outside. One came from BATW, and only one came from Facebook.com. And some of these are hyperlinked, and I can go back and see which facebook.com page that came from. So that's a nice feature that gives you immediate feedback on how things are going. Well, I'll show you another example here. How are we doing on time? So this is my personal stats for today. So you can see over the last 30 days, this is everything I've written, not just BATW. I've had about nearly 800 folks looking at my stuff. So that's what, about 30 a day or so. And today I had a big jump, 61 views. And that's because I just published an article on the 50th anniversary of Intel's microprocessor that all you nerds might know. That was Monday of this week, 50 years ago, Intel introduced their first microprocessor. And this is something I came up with the last minute. In fact, it's an article I cobbled together out of something I wrote for the museum several years ago. So I don't expect it to do as well because it's not totally new material, but I can see that 41 people looked at it. And let's see. And where did those come from? 14% came from inside Medium, 21% came from emails that I might have sent out, 12 came from Facebook, and 3 came from LinkedIn. So that's not the one I want. This is the one I want. So we are back at the medium.com page. And I think that is everything I need to tell you about what's on here. We've looked through Lee's article. So why don't we take a look and see if I can figure out how to enter an article. Here I go. So write a story. So this is how you start. I type with 2 fingers, one of them very shaking. So this. Okay, so here I can put in a subtitle. Do you really want to know? It does have a spell check. You can play, this heading font is fixed for you. You can play a little bit with this by going to this feature here. I can make it a bit bigger, or I can actually turn it into a quotation if I really want it. But no, let's stick with this is the subtitle. Now the next thing I'm going to want is a photograph. As I said, nice big picture at the front. There's 2 ways to do that. You can go to your own source of images. I will just very arbitrarily click a photograph I was using here today. It has nothing to do with my story, but it just shows. That's actually a picture of Hearst Castle during construction in about 1929, I think. You can add a caption here. And if this picture is not your own, we ask that you do put an image source at this point. And from here on, you can actually start. Now, let's write something. And excuse the spelling there. And you can go on thousands of words. You could almost do a book on here, I think. There is no maximum time, maximum amount of text or maximum amount of pictures that Medium requires. If you make it too long, it might be a very slow load and no one would want to bother to read it. So let's say I'd like another picture here, but I don't have anything in my library. Now there is a feature here which takes you to a source of free pictures called Unsplash. There are a number of different sites out there that allow them. So OK is Unsplash. Let's see if they've got a picture of Hearst Castle for me. All right. So let's try that again. All right. So here's a photo of Hearst Castle. That can be displayed depending on the size of the file you provide, as will this one. In this case, you can make it small alongside and you can have text wrapped around it. You can have it in line with the text. You can have it inline and wide, or you can make it fill up the whole page. It's probably not a good idea to do that other than perhaps sometime at the top of the page. And so you would finish your story here. And now let's get into some nitty-gritty stuff here, but it's pretty straightforward. These little 3 dots up here, whenever you don't know what to do, click on the 3 dots and see what happens. And here the choices are, at this point, I could add it to another publication. I published a number of publications on Medium. This is where you'd save a draft link to send out to an editor. So even if your story is not published to the public, an editor can take a look at your work. I can change that featured image. I can change the title. You can see your revision history. And this is what we're looking for here is more settings. So more settings are a number of different features. And the one thing I wasn't able to show you before when I did not go through the actual sign up process is how to create your avatar and your bio. And to do that, you would go up to author settings here and create your information. So what right now I'm looking for is reader interest and tags. So here's the tags. We add a tag, let's say Hearst Castle. And you can see that Hearst Castle is one that has been used before. Didn't like my spelling, did I? Let's correct that. Okay, so Hearst Castle exists as a tag for other writers. You can add that then. You can add anything up to 3 other tags of your own. And then there would be a 4th tag, which you please leave blank. When you send it to us, we fill that in, and actually we'll write into that North American Stories so it appears on the right side on the page. Some other features here, there are SEO settings. You can actually change the title that appears when Google is out searching, if you don't think it right. If you don't change this SEO description here, it just takes the first couple of lines from the first paragraph of your story. If you think that's not SEO enough, and Lee's the SEO queen, she'll tell you about that stuff one day. You can write, this is a story about Hearst Castle, that it includes the following things that are likely to get picked up on Google. And here is where you'll find the link that you can send to your friends that you can put up on your Facebook page, for example, with a link to your story. And basically you just click on that. You have now copied and you can then paste that in your story. So then we go back to the editor, having taken care of those business. And at this point, I can choose to publish it and it will appear on my page. Or in this case, you can go to share a draft link. That gives you the draft link that you would then send to the BATW editor if it's not published, or you'd send the regular link for the first attempt at doing a story. Another thing you can do is add to publication. I've published on these different publications, BATW travel stories, books, the CHM publication. So a number of these here. The biggest publication I know on Medium is The Startup, which I believe has about 45,000 followers. And one article that I published on there actually got 10,000 reads. So so in this case, I'm not going to send it to a publication. And that, I think, is basically all you need to know about writing a story for BATW. I'm trying to get out of share. Oh, you are screen sharing, so I'm not going to share screen anymore. Stop share.
Well, that was an absolutely amazing presentation, David. I would have thought that you did this Medium publication stuff professionally. You're very good.
I had to learn. I just done it intuitively before. I had to sit down and figure out to tell you guys this week. So there's a little practice.
We had
there
one
going
practice
on.
session, and now you're an expert. It's great.
Thank
Such
you.
a service to BATW to have this magazine, to have this tutorial, and I know we have a million questions. So let's get started with the questions, and the whole committee will be available to answer them, with the exception of April.
So are the questions in the chat, or shall we
have
just?
been. Why doesn't people ask their questions?
Yes, sure. And anyone raise their hand?
I know Susan Alcorn had a question.
Susan.
Yeah, I'm not clear on if I set up an account, then I can publish it all on my own, or I can run it through BATW. Is that right?
Yes, you could. What happens is you create the story, and if you want to have it appear on your own page, you just publish to your page. And then you can publish 50 stories on that page and have absolutely nothing to do with BATW. What you can then do with one of those stories, you'd go up to that little button that I said add a publication. And once you're a writer for BATW, click on that. The story will come into BATW. The editors will look at it and say, that looks pretty good, or could you make a few changes here and there? And then they would accept it for publication.
Okay.
Once it's published in BATW magazine, it appears both on your own page and in the BATW magazine.
Okay. And can we use stories that we've used previously, or do we receive copyright?
I don't publish anything that you don't have the copyright for. That's all I would say. I have written once a month. So I think I have 6 or 7 stories published now. And only one of them was a new story that I wrote, actually because I was researching my secret Monterey book, and I had to take a bunch of photographs. So I created a photo essay on Salinas Valley, which we published as a BATW story. Everything else is stuff going back, in one case, 20 years.
Okay.
In fact, I have some stuff on this that I wrote for the San Francisco Examiner, if anybody ever remembers that is almost still relevant. And I don't care if they own the copyright or not. I'll be happy to publish that.
Thank you.
It's a great platform for stories or photos out of your things you've written months ago, years ago. You know, as long as they're pretty evergreen, it's a great.
Sure. Karen's point is
old things.
Yeah. If you published this some time ago and you got a bunch of links to places or prices, appreciate that you either remove those or make sure they're still alive and update them.
Sure, it's updated.
Yeah.
Is there a word limit to for them a BATW magazine article?
We recommend not less than 800 and probably not more than 3,000. Typically, they're coming in about 1,500 words, seems to be a good length. One clue you get is when you look at all the stories listed, it tells you what the reading time is. And if it says 25 minutes to read, then probably no one's going to click on that story.
Yeah. And can we put our article from the BATW anthology on the magazine?
Absolutely. And that will be my story.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my story last time, last week.
Thank you. And thank you, committee, for the work.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. And I waited 6 months or so before putting that story out this month. It's the one about the Carrizo plane that I wrote, the anthology. I didn't want to head off any sales of books, but what I do now is look on it as promotion for the book. I have a copy of the book cover at the bottom and a link to the Corte Madera store to buy it.
Great, thank you.
Speaking of photo essays, you might browse through the articles that are on the VHW site, because some of them are kind of photo essays. You don't have to have a whole article in here. If you've got a dozen or whatever related travel photos, you don't need to write an article. Just put good captions under each of them. With one little intro paragraph at the top, and you got a photo essay. And when you look through the articles that are up there, you'll see that the photography looks fabulous. They really show up well. So if you're a photographer, or even if you're not, it's another way to use and show off. You have a portfolio of your work, of your photography.
And one thing I didn't show is when the photographs are restricted by size, by whatever the parameters are set by medium.com, if they're big enough and you actually just click on the photograph itself, all the text goes away and the photograph fills the page. So you can really show photographs off to great advantage. When you click on the photograph back, it collapses back to its original size and you continue to go down the page.
I have a question. And first, I want to say how beautiful the site is. It's just fabulous. Most of us would not be writing on the site. So is it pretty easy just to copy your Microsoft Word document into it and then put your pictures in? Because I think that's what most people would be doing.
Yeah, that's what I do. And it is possible, for example, I think Lee and John can actually directly upload their stories from their website.
Mhm.
The only thing, be careful in doing that, is the photographs are then all of a fixed size by column width. So you might want to go in, remove those photographs and replace them with a larger size photo. I'm not quite sure where that happens. I don't think it's in Medium. I did notice that the other day. But yes, I always do everything. I'm such a slow typist. I hate to use up people's bandwidth by typing on the screen.
So you could just float in your whole story and then go back and figure out and insert your pictures.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
You just make a paragraph break and that little thing will show up and it asks you if you want to insert a photograph or do something else. And then you can go out to Unsplash like I did, or go to your photo library and just drop them right in. Sometimes people have questions about things, and one of the beauties of Medium is that it is somewhat limited in what you can do in order to maintain the look and feel. So for one example, one feature I would love to be able to do is in the caption under a picture, I'd be able to like to use italics if should be italics there. You can't do that. Medium says you can't do it, so don't worry.
I have a question. You said you could do photo essays.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering if you could take a series of Instagram posts, which are pretty detailed.
Yep.
And then just put those up, and it would serve two purposes, right? You'd run it on Instagram and you would run it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how. It may be possible just to go out to your Instagram page and drop it in. I don't know, but you could certainly recreate your Instagram page on there if you can't do it directly. Yes, sure.
Yeah.
I have a question about the splash or whatever the
Unsplash.
photos
Yeah.
that are available to be used.
Madeline, I can't, you've somehow got muted, Madeline.
Oh, we can't
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, we can now.
Okay, yeah. Oh, I'm probably not on the Wi-Fi. So could you say more about that Splash or whatever that service is for photos?
Yeah, Unsplash is a site that offers free photos for anybody looking for it. It is license free. They have photographs you can buy as well, and I'm sure that's where they make a business. But essentially, there are. Let's see. If you go into the submissions guidelines on the BAW website and you scroll down to, there is a place where I talk about where you can get pictures. There's Unsplash. I think there's one called Pixels and a third one that all offer free pictures. They're usually very generic pictures, and they're mostly used by writers who aren't photographers who just want something to put at the top of their blog. But sometimes you'll find something useful in there.
Hey, David.
Yes, sir.
So real quick, if it's okay, just because I wanted to actually kind of talk about that super quick, because I've used Unsplash several times. I'm not a photographer, and sometimes the image that I'm looking for, I've even reached out to CVBs and I'm like, I want something super specific, and you don't get it. And it's so easy to use Unsplash because all you have to do is click on that little, the magnifying glass icon, type in what you're looking for, get a bunch of pictures and click and in it goes. So I was wondering if you could just real quick, just for the purposes of showing people, share your screen again, just quickly go to my Tennessee article, because I've got several Unsplash photos in there. And the nice thing too is it already gives you the credit. So you don't even have to worry about doing that.
I'm not sure we got the right page here. All right, so we're going to.
So just hang tight, people, and then you can you'll be able to see.
Article, it's BATW travel stories. And this was Erin's article on
Sevierville.
Severe. Thank you. I had no idea how to pronounce it. There you go. So that's a story you got from the CVB, right?
You mean a photo?
Yes. I'm sorry, the photo.
That's okay. Yeah. If it doesn't say Unsplash underneath it, then it's been sourced elsewhere. If you go down to the llamas.
There we go. There's one. There's a picture of llamas there.
There you
That's
go.
from
So
Unsplash.
the llamas is a great example. So I
Right.
grabbed that off of Unsplash, and as you can see from looking at the caption underneath, it clearly gives the credit.
And that picture is larger than you've chosen to show it. So that is what the picture looks like when it's blown up to the maximum that the pixels will allow.
It's really quite a nice service to have when you've got, you can go down to the Dolly Parton photo. I think maybe that
Dolly
was,
Parton shows up beautifully.
yeah. So it's just a really nice feature to have, especially, if you're, perhaps like you want to recreate an article and you own the rights to the words, but the magazine that you wrote it for, the newspaper or whatever, they came up with the images. So you're not going to be able to use those same images for your article. Like, you own the words, but you can't use the photos, right? So anyway, I found that Unsplash is super easy and free. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to, kind of show that as a real
Good
world
point.
example.
Yeah, let's see. My stories are here. Oh, for example, where are we? Oops. These are stories that I have in draft that I will publish one day. These are the 46 I published. Oh, and you do get feedback. These are responses that I've got. People can just click. And another feature is that people can clap for your story, and you will see how many. And then Medium has a feature of trending stories. So the ones that are getting the most claps right now appear at the top of the pile. And let's see what I was going to look at here. I was going to look at here we go. This is the only story that I've written specific for BATW. And these are, I mentioned I'm doing one of the secret series at Secret Monterey. And so I went out, needed a bunch of stories from Silicon Valley. And so this is the big photo at the top. And so what I've done is I've linked photographs with quotes from Steinbeck's work here.
Mm.
So this is essentially a photo essay. Now this is kind of an example. This was state-of-the-art picture when I took it back in 2001 on my 1 megapixel camera. And that is as
Wow.
big as you can get the picture. The one at the top is on my iPhone. That sort of gives you what's happened in 20 years in digital photography. And so here, again, this picture will go out full page. So this is essentially a photo essay.
Yeah.
This picture, I think, is bigger. Yeah. This is what Salinas Valley looks like these days. Little tractor and giant windmills. So, are there other questions? Good point, Erin. Thank you for bringing that up.
I have a quick one. I saw that you have your drafts and there didn't seem to be exactly a place for drafts. You just copy your own links, or how do you save your drafts?
Oh yeah, one of the things is that there is no save feature on Medium. It saves everything,
Right.
which is good. And if you don't publish it, it automatically is saved in a draft folder.
Okay, so if you don't publish it,
It'll be in draft folder.
it's a draft and it'll be there for you.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can start working one day and pick it up a year later if you like. Continue.
It's a great way to show off to your PR people or your destination, someplace you went to, and you feel like you need to pay it off. You don't have another outlet. You can write that article in photos and put it on there. And if you get good response, good statistics, you can take a screenshot of your statistics and send it to your PR people to show that, this is just as good an outlet as any other. You get hundreds, maybe thousands of readers. So it's kind of a good thing, especially if you've got a payoff to make to, some place that you stayed or some trip that you went to, and you don't have an outlet. This makes an outlet. And you can show the statistics and show the article.
That's a great point, Karen. And it not only helps BATW, obviously, by populating our magazine with good material, but it helps our PR partners. And many times they'll mention to me that, that they hope that they're going to get, obviously, some articles out of it, some social media out of it. We have a Christmas party coming up, and that was one of the things that Renee Roberts mentioned to me was, do you think we could get a few articles out of the Christmas party? Well, these are ways to do that so that we can continue to ensure that we have good venues for BATW.
They look spectacular, The articles and photos look really fabulous on our magazine.
Yeah, everyone benefits.
Yeah.
Everyone benefits in the organization when you publish your article. The PR people benefit, the destination benefits, and everyone in BATW benefits, because we're looked at as someone who's going to produce for them if we work together, by them sponsoring us and we sponsoring them. And that's what it's all about, because we get privileges and opportunities to look deeply at a destination that the average person doesn't. But when they read the article, they're finding it much more interesting than if they just read the name of a destination. So, like I said, everyone benefits. It's great.
And the really neat thing is that we all would probably pick different angles. I mean, based on our interests at a destination or press trip, or even something as simple as a holiday party. You know, someone might go with the, you know, the background of the chef, and someone might do something on that neighborhood in Oakland, which is kind of a cool story because it's going to be in the Hive, which has it's a destination in its own right, a new destination in Oakland. So we all have different interests and angles.
And then, of course, if you're publishing, or if you're getting your articles published elsewhere, and they're getting a double exposure for that, it's really pleasing.
Yeah.
And you don't, it's so simple to even take the article that you've already published and just post it again on Medium. It's a great benefit for the destination.
The other thing I just wanted to sort of throw in there as well is that, you know, I like the fact that as an organization, this endeavor is, it's proactive, it's not reactive, right? So we all know how hard hit the travel industry was with COVID. And so the reaction then could be, oh, well, I've lost this outlet, or I can't write about this place because Americans aren't traveling there. And instead, this is an opportunity to look at it from a proactive stance and say, you know, well, it's kind of like, you know, let's put on a show. I mean, like, why wait to get, you know, cast in a theatrical production? Let's just do our own. And, you know, having such a wealth of riches in terms of our photographers and our writers. I mean, that website is really an opportunity for us to showcase what we can do, what we're capable of. And not just for industry partners, but also, you know, for travelers. So that, I mean, the hope, of course, is not for it to be a vanity project, but for, you know, readers to go there and find a wealth of really great, well-written information. I mean, David earlier was talking about Lee's story about the cruise ship. You know, if you're just your typical average traveler and you found that story, that's provided a wealth of information for you. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of underscore that, and how the goal at the end of the day is to really have this be a legitimate publication that we as an organization are proud of.
I think another great benefit that most of us aren't aware of is that it can be a great calling card. If you are diligent in 6 months and have 6 articles published from various past and newer experiences that you couldn't get published elsewhere, you can use that as an example when you pitch to Travel and Leisure or whoever you want to pitch to, and say, here's a link to some of my other work, which they're always interested in looking at what you produce, how you produce, and if they can count on you to be professional. So it's a great calling card, especially for newer people in travel writing.
You know, one of my more popular stories over the last year is that we're members of the Ventana Wildlife Society, which are the folks that release the condors. And I was talking to Kelly Sorensen about, hey, I'd like to write a story on this. Would that be useful? And he said, boy, I'd love that. And so I wrote a story on how I first met a condor and why they were neat things, put it up on the website, and 1,500 people have taken a look at that probably wouldn't have known about it beforehand. So it's good for an organization that you support.
Yeah, a lot of philanthropic organizations that we want to support, environmental and climate change and so forth, are all great opportunities for us to contribute in this way too, like David has with his Condor article and his museum, computer museum articles.
Yeah, if you want to get lots of Chinese readers, write about Silicon Valley. That's where my 10,000 readers came from, one article, I think. So are there any more questions, or are we done for the evening? We are now right on an hour. So that's good timing. Well, thank you, everybody, for
Thank you,
coming first
David.
today.
Thank you. David.
There's still time to squeak a story into the December issue if you have so.
I got to talk.
And we look forward to see your stories coming our way shortly. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, David. Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
David.
Appreciate
Thank
your time. Bye-bye.